Welcome, Judd Apatow.
It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you here. I was just telling my massive audience that normally I don't like to completely blow smoke up people's asses. You know, when they come in, like I like some of the stuff they do, not like some. But, like, you're one of the very few people that I can think of that I think I've liked everything you've done, even, and this is the test, even when I don't know you did it.
That's good. So my ass has been properly smoked.
Yes. Like, I was sitting there, obviously, huge Freaks and Geeks fan. I was an Undeclared fan while it was on TV.
I know. Can you believe it didn't survive? What happened?
I don't know. But then I found out, this is what blew my mind. Probably 10 years ago, I found out that you wrote Heavyweights.
That's the one that people are always surprised to hear about.
Because it's not one of the sort of Apatow projects. It's one of these things that exists over here, and it's this amazing movie. And then you find out it does fall under your umbrella, and it's kind of mind-blowing.
It's in the Disney family. People didn't think I was part of the Disney family.
But you are.
The Disney people weren't happy about it either. They thought the movie was really dark. Well, what's fascinating, because we're on a big press tour for Trainwreck, we did not do one interview to promote Heavyweights. There was no press junket. There was nothing.
It just came out, and they were hoping it would just go away.
I don't know what they were thinking, but they certainly knew it was much weirder than their usual fare.
That's what Putty from Seinfeld said about The Tick.
Yes, I remember The Tick.
That Fox put it out, and then they realized it was way more expensive and darker or whatever than they wanted.
Right. And now we have a geek culture. But when we did Freaks and Geeks, there really wasn't a big nerd culture. There wasn't Comic-Con.
Yeah.
And it was a very different time. But back then, when you were a nerd, you really felt more alone and excluded. But now you can be a weirdo and you're the coolest guy because you're a weirdo.
Yeah, I just feel like now in movies, when they try to show that, they still always pick a good-looking kid.
Yeah.
He's always, like, way smarter than he would have been in high school. Like, it's not like on the shows you were doing where you could see, like, that kid would not be popular. He probably will turn into something smart or funny or whatever, but he would not. Whereas, most of the time, they're just kind of quirky.
That's true. And so it's sad that Freaks and Geeks didn't last, but it's also good because we always thought we were going to get canceled, so we put all of our ideas into one season.
Right.
So it's a little more like a mini-series.
Yeah. When you did 40-Year-Old Virgin, was that one, did you think that was going to be as successful as it was? Did you think that was going to kind of launch you into this direction that it did?
Well, I did that after Anchorman, and Will Ferrell and Adam McKay, made such an amazing movie with Anchorman, and we would watch Steve Carell every day and think, this guy's insanely funny. I've never seen anything like this. So I said, you got any ideas, Steve? And he said, yeah, I've always wanted to play a 40-year-old virgin. So Steve and I wrote it, and I had a sense that those guys were all taking off, and I didn't know how far it could go, but I knew Steve was ready to break big. And then when we started showing the movie to people, people went crazy.
Yeah.
And so we thought, hey, maybe this is going to do all right. I didn't think it would do as well as it did.
Right.
But we did feel it all along that Steve was a genius, and he just needed his own vehicle.
Yeah. And so now that you've established yourself as somebody who kind of has all these films behind him, and everybody knows Judd Apatow is a household name, and you've got all these sort of the Seth Rogans and the Jason Segels, and everybody's like, oh, they're coming from this umbrella. When you go and make Trainwreck, is there pressure, or even when you do something like Girls, is there pressure when you take somebody else's writing or creation and say, okay, the name Apatow means something now. Does this fit this thing?
I don't think about it in those terms. What I try to think about is, how can I make it good, and how can I make it good so Amy loves it?
Yes.
How can I stay true to her vision, but also show her what I know that she doesn't know, and collaborate with her in a way that when we're done, she's ecstatic with the product, and that I feel like it's as good as it can be, and maybe the audience will like it too. So there's a dance happening all throughout. And Amy has such a strong vision. She's so crazy funny.
Right.
But yet it's her first movie, so you're also explaining how this scene might not work the way you think it will, because I've shot scenes like this before, and sometimes they seem funny, but they're too gross or whatever. And so we're having a very close collaboration based on her amazing ideas and my experience with just the trial and error of making these movies. And it worked great. Like, we had a really good time together figuring out how to make an Amy Schumer movie.
Oh, so in your mind, it was like the thought was maybe I'll produce this, maybe I'll.
Yeah, well, you're always wondering when it'll be good enough, and then
Right.
when it feels like, oh, it's almost good enough to shoot, you think, oh, well, who would direct this? And usually, I think there are people who understand this type of movie better than me. Like maybe there's some action to it, and I think, I don't know how to do action or something like that. But with this, I thought, oh, I think a new person will screw this up.
Right.
Like I need to do this and not add another voice because I think Amy and I are in
We get
perfect sync.
Yeah. How did you have to go? Was LeBron James and John Cena, were these two names that from the beginning you thought? Because when you're bringing in performers like these guys, there has to be a huge risk of they're not going to be good at this.
Well, John Cena just read for the movie like any other actor,
Really?
and I wasn't familiar with him.
No?
I just saw him on tape, and I just went, "Who the hell's that guy? He's insanely funny." Then we did a table read where we read the script out loud, and John didn't have the part yet. He got bigger laughs than anybody in the movie,
Really?
by far.
Really?
So we hired him, and then I caught up and realized what a mega wrestling star he was.
You were not part of the C Nation going in.
You know, since Bruno Sammartino, I haven't stayed up on it as much.
Yeah.
And he's a great guy. He's really like a great guy, and so much of what he did in the movie he made up.
Yeah.
And just a gifted comedian. And LeBron too. LeBron showed up. And you don't know what he's going to be like. Is he going to be cool? Is he going to be on time? Does he know how to act? Am I going to have to like spoon feed this to him?
Yeah.
He was a great actor. He didn't need any help. And he could improvise like anybody else. And a lot of the best lines are him. And Bill would really improvise with him and throw him off the script. And LeBron could totally hang in and was as funny as anybody else in the movie. And it's not a small part. He has a big part.
It's a huge part. Yeah. And he's funny throughout.
Yeah, he's funny wall to wall, and he's like the Bruno Kirby of the movie. He's like the Bonnie Hunt of our movie, the supportive friend. Yeah. And so it's just weird that the supportive friend is the greatest basketball player who ever lived.
Whose idea was it to put the Kanye lyrics in?
I'm not sure exactly how that happened. It was an interesting day because we were shooting a one-on-one game between Bill Hader and LeBron James, and people kept showing up. Like Paul Rudd shows up with his son, and then Chris Rock shows up with his kids, and people kept wanting to meet LeBron. And then we just started kicking jokes around with Chris Rock, and he had great jokes for the scene.
Yeah.
And it changed the scene a bit because Chris had some great ideas and Amy had some great ideas. And at some point, we asked him to just start quoting Gold Digger in the middle of a conversation,
Right.
but without saying you're quoting it, but just start saying the lyrics like it's conversation.
It's also helpful that John Cena looks hilarious naked.
Yes, I mean, he's completely naked.
Yes.
And he was really funny about it, but, went for it. And I think, to be in comedy, you have to be willing to do those things. I mean, you can't be prissy. And he kept saying like, yeah, people are going to give me a hard time about this, but this is going to be funny. And he went for it.
Do you read reviews?
I don't read a lot of them. I usually tell my office to send me the good ones.
Yeah.
And I'll just buzz through them fast. But, they start getting repetitive.
Yeah.
The ones that dislike it usually dislike it for similar reasons. There's always some funny, weird ones that you don't quite understand what they don't like about it. And the good ones are somewhat repetitive. So I'll pick a few reviewers that I really respect and try to get a sense of those. But, it gets in my head, and it gets in my head for decades, so I try not to...
Like it sticks with you.
It does, so I try not to read too much. But there are certain reviewers who are very helpful to me.
Yeah.
David Denby from The New Yorker has written some reviews that have actually made me rethink things. And he talked a lot about Catherine Keener and the 40 Virgin, and he said, it seems like it's a tough relationship they're going to have, but it's going to be worth it. And I thought, oh, yeah, that's a great idea. And that really inspired a lot of Knocked Up. Like, I could show these really difficult relationships, but it's worth it.
Right.
And have them fight more.
Right.
And so that's why that movie was a little more aggressive in how they communicated. So every once in a while, a reviewer can be very, very helpful.
Does that reviewer know that?
I think I have talked about it with him. We did a panel once. And it doesn't mean that he'll like this one, or there have been other ones that he hasn't liked. But there are certain people that I find the way they think about movies interesting.
I feel like if I was a reviewer at that point, I'd be like so stressed when the next Apatow movie came out because it's like I got to inspire the next one too. I got to keep moving with this. I'm on the right wave.
Exactly.
Do you know what your Rotten Tomatoes rating is for Trainwreck right now?
What is it today?
It's 100%.
And that's pretty good because last week it was like 100% with like 3. But now I think our numbers are going up enough that it's something to be proud of.
Yeah, you should be proud of it.
There's nothing really to dislike about the movie. Like, I'm always surprised with certain movies that you don't have a higher number. It's interesting when they like it and when they don't like it, because some movies I'll think, well, you could not love it, but you can't say this isn't pretty good.
Right.
But sometimes people, for all sorts of reasons, like to write a great bad review just to not be one of the good reviews. Like,
Absolutely.
Like you can feel like it's an interesting movie to tear apart what it is.
Uh-huh.
And I know they like it, but they really like trying to find flaws and ways to interpret it. But this is a movie that its heart is in a very good place, and it's very personal and very, very vulnerable and really funny. Anyone who really dislikes it, I might be concerned about them.
Yeah, because it does this amazing job of being as funny as any movie you've ever done is, as well as adding in all these kind of rom-com things that a lot of people have liked in that genre forever. Like, that's the heart of it.
Yes.
And it's this really kind of sweet story buried under a lot of dick jokes.
Cut to tomorrow and the Rotten Tomatoes drop to 18%.
We hate this. Do you read Twitter reviews?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter a fair amount. I'll read tweets. And you can get a general feeling of, oh, people are liking it, or, oh, people aren't even talking about it. That's actually worse when it's really quiet out there.
You're like, maybe I should put out a couple more Cosby tweets and people start talking about this thing.
I'm leveraging it. That would be the worst thing in the world.
Horrible.
Yeah.
Are you glad that people like John Oliver have taken up the Cosby cause? Did you see what he did?
I did not. What did he do?
He did this amazing montage of Whoopi Goldberg defending ridiculous things, like defending Cosby and then defending Chris Brown and then defending like person after person after person that's just been sort of universally obviously in the wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I think she is one of those people that is trying to find compassion or is waiting to get all the evidence before saying negative things about people. Mm-hmm. I think her heart is in the right place most of the time. And so I feel bad about her getting vilified for such things. Because I think when she says, Michael Vick grew up in a world where they did this, she's trying to understand somebody. It doesn't mean she's saying it's okay and it's not awful.
Right.
But she's trying to understand, the reasons why people get to a place. So that's rough, but I guess, it's important that we stand with these women. I mean, 80% of women don't report their rapes. 80%. And especially if the person who raped you is the biggest star in the country and has the money to sue you so you're bankrupt and can end your career.
Right.
That's why people don't speak up. So even now people are afraid to speak up. But if you notice, Cosby's not suing anybody
for slander,
because then he would have to prove he's not a rapist.
Right.
Who wants to talk about this kind of abuse? But this is why there's problems with rape on campus and in the military, because people tend to put their energy behind letting the guy off more than standing up for women and saying, we got to do something about this problem.
Right. Well, it's not a problem? The movie Trainwreck. It's coming out on Friday.
I find that every interview I have done today, the last question is about Cosby.
Yeah.
And then it's an awkward transition back to Trainwreck.
Well, because I figured I'd do it in the middle, but then I lost track of time, and because you can't. I was watching your Today Show interview. You cannot go anywhere without getting the Cosby question. It's like
I don't mind it because what's important is, we should care about these women.
Yes.
So as weird as it is, people should pay attention to the issue. Cosby is just a symptom of a larger problem. And go see Trainwreck.
It really is a hilarious movie, and the fans of this show love Amy Schumer and love Colin Quinn and love all the people that are in it. So definitely go see it. Judd Apatow, thank you so much for being here, man.
It was great to be here. Thank you.